What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Vehicles and Videos, to where two guys.
Talking cars. Talking cars. This is Brinton. That's Brandon.
We're going to get that intro together at some time. We thought, the last couple of episodes have been about technology, like the technology of the cars, and we thought it might be kind of cool to talk about some of the newer technologies that we're seeing in cars, and how it affects people in the shop, and maybe even some of how it affects us on set. So Brinton, what are some of the newer technologies that you're kind of like
So
interested in? What?
the number one thing that I think is hitting mainstream more so would be like 360 cameras. And like you have autonomous driving, you have like some of these other things, but I think one of the biggest ones is you're seeing it in you're seeing it in Nissans, Hondas, Kias, of course Mercedes and Cadillacs and all that stuff. But 360 cameras really are impressive these days, and the night vision in them, and then everything about them is getting very, very luxurious, to be honest. It's the
Yeah.
technology that's in them nowadays is somewhat impressive.
And I mean, I remember when your backup camera was this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my neck I don't even know how to turn my neck anymore. I don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, it was cool when cars got the backup camera alone, right? And
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that there's a little bit of some accidents that happened simply because of the backup camera, because people are now looking forward at a screen, right? And they didn't check all of their blind spots. But that's where this 360 camera comes in. I mean, it literally, like, depending upon the brand of this technology, right? Sometimes it's an overhead view, sometimes it just shows you the back, but it knows what's all around you. Like there's a couple of different versions of it, but it's amazing to, like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm square in the spot. And you push the little
Yeah.
camera button like I do in my
Well, you,
Explorer,
well, you,
and
you,
it shows me
def,
exactly where I am in the spot.
you definitely segued to another technology, which is the cross alert that a lot of these cameras are doing. So if you're going forward or backwards out of a parking spot, it will also alert you before you can even see it as a driver. So the sensors are in the car far enough out that they'll see traffic coming. And in certain cars, so I own a repair shop and I'm on a busy street and I have to back out. And sometimes I have to back out in an area that's not great. And sometimes I'm getting in these cars and they're stopping me from backing out because it's seeing traffic that now in my case I'm like it shouldn't have stopped me, but it's better to be safe than sorry because the
Right.
last thing I want to do is, you know,
And so my driveway, in a similar situation, my driveway isn't even that steep. But if I rolled down too quickly, this is when we had the Lincoln for a little bit. When I rolled down too quickly, it would sense the road, the difference in the road, and it would think that it was a vehicle, an
right.
oncoming
Yeah.
vehicle,
Yeah.
and it would stop me. It wouldn't even let me back out of the driveway. And to an
Yeah.
extent that can be dangerous, because now I'm like not in, not out, and I've got cars coming.
Yeah, yeah. So the cross alert with the auto braking, I think as annoying as it is, I think it's great because that's when you and I started to drive. I remember driving through parking lots, and if a car was starting to back out, you were courteous and you waited.
But yeah.
If you're living in a residential neighborhood or a city and you see a car backing out, you were courteous and waited. I don't feel that way anymore. Feel like people don't care if your reverse lights are on. They don't care if they see movement. They just want to go because
Yeah.
they feel like they have the right of way. So I don't know where the disconnect came in that aspect of it, but a lot of car accidents happen because someone feels like they have the right of way. Someone might not be able to see you or stop fast enough. And this cross alert technology does help a lot.
Yeah. Well, so it's funny because you talked about I mean, Cross Alert is newer than the story I'm about to tell. But when the Ford Flex was out, my wife was backing out of a spot, and another, I think it was either a Jeep or a Hummer, and I can't remember which one it was. But they were both backing out, and because of where their two corners were, none of the sensors sensed the other two vehicles. and they actually hit each other. They backed into each other, corner to corner, because they're just outside of
And
the
it
peripheral
was
of their
both your fault,
sensors.
technically, right?
And it really, yeah, it was. I mean, neither of them really looked or whatever else. Yeah, I mean, I, I wonder if it's, like now there's touch screens and all this other stuff in the car that people are just in general too distracted to pay attention, or maybe they are too self-involved as a driver and they're not paying attention to others with the courtesy. So the blind spot auto detect also, I'm not sure if you've messed with this as well, but you have the steering wheel sensors, right? Like the lane assist,
Yeah,
right?
lane assist is
And
been
sometimes they'll kind
around
of like
for
veer you
about
right
10
back.
years or more. So I wouldn't call that modern technology.
Not necessarily, but it's getting better and better, right? Like sometimes
Yeah.
it's keeping you in your lane. Sometimes it is braking, and it's doing some of that, which is why I brought it up. Like, I think the car I'm driving right now is if I go too far one way, it starts to brake and bring me back. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Blue Cruise, but that's some of those autonomous driving cars. Blue Cruise is a Ford thing, and um, we had that on the Explorer. It was fun, man. You turn on Blue Cruise, hands off the wheel,
Yeah.
just relax, set the
Yeah.
speed, and the cool thing is, like, you could set. I'm gonna just say a high number, right, to make the point, but you could set the speed at 90, and it's gonna come up on somebody, and it keeps a fair distance. So if somebody's doing 65 in front of you, even though your speedometer
Yeah.
is set higher, it's gonna slow off. I don't have to hit the brake. I don't have to touch the steering wheel. I don't have to do anything. I just sit there,
Right.
and it and
So
it does a lot of the driving for me.
the adaptive cruise technology
That's
is
what it's called. Right?
that's the technology that it senses the distance ahead of you and it can pace itself behind you. But then you're talking adding the lane assist technology on top of that. So a lot of manufacturers have been hesitant to package it all together. There's a couple huge companies that have packaged it all together and been very, very successful. But not everybody's willing to do that. The technology is there. The technology is there, but for some reason, a lot of the other companies just haven't done that. And you know who's been out there and done that, and they've had cars with no people in them, and they do that well.
Well, I think in LA right now, there's taxis that are
Yeah.
driverless.
Yeah. So do you want me to talk about a con?
Yeah.
Okay. I was at factory training in 2012. The technology existed in 2012. This is 2025. Do you want a computer to decide if a stranger that is breaking the law's life is worth more than your life that you're confiding to the law? Meaning, if someone breaks the law and runs a red light, but for whatever reason, that computer algorithm says, I can swerve and miss this person, but your life might go in danger.
Interesting.
So where does that line come
Yeah.
into? And that's why a lot of these manufacturers haven't went autonomous.
Going back to Blue Cruise, there's moments where it will ding and it'll tell you, and it'll even self brake, and it makes you put your hands back on the wheel, right? Like it there's eye sensors, so if I like were to doze off or whatever else, it
Yeah.
would ding and all that stuff, and it would tell me, hey, like you got to look at the wheel, you look at the road. So even though in that situation the car was driving itself, it did allow me that option to override it and make that choice myself. Similarly, if you remember, I mean, this was probably 10 years ago or so now, but when we first heard that Tesla had a self-driving car, I think a woman fell asleep. They literally took a nap in the car when it was driving, and it couldn't tell the difference between the horizon and the underneath of a tractor trailer. And it drove right underneath the tractor trailer.
Mm,
I can't remember how long ago that was, but yeah, I mean, sometimes there's glitches, right? Like that's what happens.
that's the real. So like the one thing about Tesla is they're ahead of their time in a lot of aspects, and they probably get more attention than some of the other brands because the other brands don't want they're not ready to go that route because they
Right.
don't want the lawsuits, they don't want the negative publicity. And every brand has the exact same technology as Tesla. I assure you, it's been out for a
Yeah.
very, very long time. It's only getting better and better and better, but it's a scary technology that a manufacturer is going to say, I'm going to swerve to save someone else
Yeah,
versus the driver. That's where and here's the thing. Think about your natural reaction. Your natural reaction is to swerve.
right.
You're 100% your natural reaction. If you think about it, you've seen something in the road, you whatever, your natural reaction is to swerve. You're going to do that almost naturally anyway. But to have a computer decide that you might die, that's a little different than yourself.
Yeah. And this is kind of like the whole natural reaction. Like you see a deer, you think you're about to hit a deer, and most people slam on the brakes, right? Which pitches the car forward and potentially throws the deer into the windshield,
Yeah.
right? You're actually better off accelerating
Or
if you
yeah,
know you're gonna
or
if
just
you know
or
you're gonna
just
hit the
coasting
deer.
or whatever.
Yeah. You're almost better off accelerating and then it goes over the car instead
Yeah.
of through
Yeah.
the car.
Yeah. But let's
But
not all
that's your
keep this.
choice. That's your
But
choice to make.
that this is too much negative. We got to touch on this another time.
Yeah, no,
But the other negative in my mind is the push buttons and the knobs on some of these modern cars. I am old school. I feel like the push buttons and knobs are not a technology that I'm ready to do yet. What about you? Have you been in very many push button or knob cars?
well, so yeah, I mean, how many times, like I can tell you, I end up in a lot of rentals, right? And for whatever reason, I'm in a Mazda right now. And for whatever reason, constantly it says that the battery's bad, right? And so I don't have a key. I don't have nothing. I got like, what I got in my pocket here. So I don't even know how to start the car if the battery's bad. It tells me to put it next to the button,
Yeah.
right? Right. I just push this next to the button. But if the battery's bad, like, does it really pick up the signal? And I've got a spare
It,
battery because I've already replaced the battery in this remote. I've
it's
got a
not the
spare battery in the car and I still get the sensor every once in a while. Similarly, too, is like you've got the push button handbrakes and I can't think of anything. I haven't come across too many other push buttons. Occasionally I think starting the car makes it so much easier just pushing the button. I mean, I've had tumblers go back. I mean, I went through how many on my last car? How
Yeah,
many ignitions on the
that
last
was
car?
annoying that we went through that because we got everything from Volkswagen. It was still problematic.
And I don't know if you
Sorry,
remember, but
the people's car. But yeah, no, that was ridiculous that it gave you such a problem.
yeah, I'm not sure if you
Push
remember.
buttons are a pro for sure, but I don't know. I'm still old school. I wanna shift it in because the buttons and the knobs to me aren't intuitive enough. But I guess if it's your daily, I'm getting in them. I'm moving them around. I'm working on them. I'm doing what I got to do. I'm pulling them out, and they're all just different enough that it's not great. Yeah.
So I drive a lot of Fords and they have like a knob that you turn from park to drive,
Okay.
right? And occasionally what will end up happening is I'll be in drive and it will get jogged and I'll get into neutral, you know.
Yeah.
It's not that big a deal, but again, it's that little, I'd
Yeah.
much rather have it
But in
in a
in
gear.
10 years it'll be just the norm. It's
Yeah,
just right now I feel like you get in a car and you like shift or whatever. It's not intuitive right now, but that's
right.
just technology.
And you know what? The other thing that I find interesting, you'll even see it across the same brand, is like, how come to an extent they don't just standardize things? Like, for the most part, the wiper stock is on one side and the high beams are on the other, right? But then you
Yeah.
talk about the steering wheel, like you've got all these push button steering wheels, and it's like, well, maybe over here is the phone stuff, but maybe over here is the phone stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe these buttons are cruise control. Maybe these buttons are,
I've had a theory on that for 10 plus years. It's brand loyalty. Brands come up with a scheme and they stick with it because
yeah.
they don't want someone to go from their brand to another brand and feel comfortable. They want them to be confused. I swear, because
But I've even
there's some
seen it
confusion level.
within the same company, like same brand. Like like it's like why is the volume control here on this car and but there on that car, and it's the same brand. It just doesn't make sense to me. But
Hmm. I can't
um,
picture one off the top of my head, but
I
usually
can tell you
brands are pretty.
The Edge versus the Explorer. Their
Oh,
steering wheels
okay.
are completely different.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. In my mind, Fords are very similar. They got the multi pad on both sides of the steering wheel and all that.
Yeah.
Mopar, maybe that one. Yeah. I don't know why. I feel like you just use the same steering wheel for every car, to be honest, in my head. But okay. Yeah.
Right now, I think the Edge and more so the Escape, I think was from when they owned or were in cahoots with Mazda. right?
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think they might be based off of a Mazda platform. Maybe that's some of it. I don't know. But like one thing that I find funny, and I think you're talking about it a little bit too, is now. So we went from an incandescent bulb to a more of a halogen bulb, right? Because it's supposed to give you a brighter light and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But those bulbs are super finicky, super expensive, and
Well, yeah. So you got
many
ink, you
times
got,
times now you're stuck in using them as your daytime running light. You can't turn it off, and it's impossible to replace or expensive to replace.
well, yeah. I mean, you have HID headlights.
That's what I'm talking. Yeah, HID,
You got
halogen, right?
HID headlights, and then you have LED headlights, and then you have incandescent marker bulbs, headlight bulb, tail lights,
Yeah.
even license plate lights are LEDs. And then, like, I do state inspections, and I tell a customer, I'm sorry you failed because your license plate light is out. And sorry, I can't get that from my local parts supplier. I got to get it from a dealership. Oh, and the dealership doesn't have it in stock. So you failed inspection for a license plate light that I have to order that is X amount of money, where it should have been $1.99 for an incandescent bulb, but here it is probably in the realm of 40, $50
Right. Yeah.
for a
Because
simple
it'll last
bulb.
forever.
Yeah, because it's supposed to last forever. I'll be honest, my GMC truck license plate light, I just noticed the other night, it's out. It's a LED. So it's like now I gotta go and I gotta order one, and it's like, a simple bulb isn't a simple bulb anymore. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Definitely makes it tougher. I mean, it is cool, and this isn't a super new technology, but this all the self-leveling headlights. I mean, that was, you know,
yeah.
always bad when they're all
Technology. I just read an article about Audi four rings. Their newest technology is they have sensors. When you're driving down the road, your headlight pattern is infinitely going to be variable.
really.
So if there's a car coming to your driver's side to coming up on you, it's going to dim the lights there and it's going to spread the pattern around in different areas. As soon as that car passes, that light pattern goes back up.
That's
If you
awesome.
put it's the headlight pattern is going to be almost infinitely variable to different grades. As the car that's coming towards you gets closer, the headlight's going to dim down so it's not in their eyes. And then as it passes you, it goes right back up.
That's
And then
awesome.
as it'll keep doing that pattern over and over again, and different variables, windy roads, detects where your steering wheel is, all these things. And that's just with Audi. I'm sure other brands are doing something similar.
Yeah, I mean, right now the most common thing you're seeing is the auto high beams, right? Like your high beams are on as soon as it detects a
Yeah.
light, it just shuts them off. I
That's
mean,
been
that's
out since
pretty
the
cool.
80s. That's
Yeah,
been
I
out
mean,
for,
right.
but now it's
That's
like a
nothing that
standard
new.
feature. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You're seeing it all at all price points of cars, right?
Yeah.
In the 80s or when it was out earlier, it was like the higher end cars. Now it's like, hey, I want this
Yeah.
cheap econo
Cadillacs,
box. It's got
Mercedes.
it. The other cool thing, like you mentioned, and this has been around for a while too, is like I've seen fog lights where it's like just but if you're turning right, the one fog light will stay on, the other one will turn off or something like that. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's more like a DRL.
yeah,
Like that, like a lot of
right.
brands do that. And
Like
I'll be honest,
the
it looks
Tucker had
quirky.
something
It
similar to
looks
that.
when you're opposing a car at a traffic light and your turn signal is on and their daytime running, it always looks weird to me. But
It
that's what a
does.
lot of manufacturers went with. Yeah.
And this other, I mean, it's probably like almost 8 years old now, but like I really like the turn signals that
Yeah.
animate.
Yeah.
I think
I think
that's smart.
in my head, I think the Mustangs were one of the first to do it that looked cool. But I think
Yeah.
Audi definitely did it. Mustang, Lincoln did it. Um, other manufacturers have done it for 10 to 15 years by now. Yeah, it's been around for a while.
So here's what I don't know why we haven't seen yet. Why aren't the brake lights? Why don't they have a light intensity? Right? Like if I let off the gas, maybe they're
Yeah,
very dim but on. If I apply the brakes, they're a little bit brighter. If I slam on the brakes, they should be like,
that's an
you know,
interesting one. Yeah,
like
I don't know.
why haven't we done that? Like it's like, oh, well, this guy's I mean, maybe then people are reading the brake lights wrong and like, oh, we've got plenty of time. It's only dim one,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. There's someone behind in charge of the safety that I haven't met that hasn't
Yeah.
come up with that one yet, but it
I know
does
there's
make sense. I
I
know
think
on motorcycles, and I'm starting to see it on some Hondas, where you can put a little like resistor with a diode and some sort of whatever, where you can make it when you first hit the brakes, the first sensation will pulse a little bit.
Right. And I've
Um,
seen that, which is pretty cool.
yeah, which I do think in like when I first saw that tech, that was like 10 plus year 10, 15 years ago, was
Yeah.
in like motorcycles at first, and then it came to other things. Kind of makes you think of like Formula One racing when they're like, or Le Mans when they're like hitting and you just see the brakes flashing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, right? It warned people. I think it was Volkswagen, and this is a couple years ago too. But if you had declined your speed too quickly in too short of a period, your hazard lights would go on.
I don't
Uh,
know about that.
I
Yeah.
I think it was well, I think it was more of a setting, and there was definitely one. I think they advertised the Jettas with it for like in accidents or whatever else, right? Like you're if, with with the accident detection, the hazards would automatically go on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100%. What happens when there's a car accident nowadays? Your radio turns off. Your fat flashers go on. Like it shuts off your fuel pump. There's a lot of things that can happen when an accident is detected nowadays. That makes sure the car, like the flashers, will turn on. So like if you're down in a ditch in a ravine, your flashers are going to go off. So hopefully someone
Right.
sees you, type thing. Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying is like there's a like you're talking about push button stuff and some of the pros and cons of the push button stuff. And I think that the biggest con that comes to my mind with the push button stuff is really the fact that we're getting rid of the third pedal and we're getting rid of that manual transmission and we're
Yeah.
going to automatic transmissions. And I mean, it's cool that you can at least select like sport mode or like there's maybe different modes on the dial, right? On more buttons,
Right.
but really it's not giving you the ability to select a gear. It's not giving you that.
Yeah.
It's funny, I think, S is generally stands for sport, but I remember we got one car and for whatever reason, I think we thought it was snow, or I did. And the interesting thing that I thought about it now is like, well, it's almost the same thing, right? Like a sport mode, you're holding a gear longer, right? And in my mind, snow mode, like you want to stay in a gear potentially for longer rather than being like sixth gear,
Right. Right.
right? You want to be in a lower gear with a little bit more torque so you can grab onto that road. You don't really
Yeah.
want the engine screaming necessarily, but you
Yeah.
want a little bit more control of that. And I think the sport mode did do that. But I would much rather have the manual control over the gears. And I
Oh,
think
it's
I think that's
when
the biggest change.
let's see here. I don't think I currently own a car that's manual, but having a manual transmission car, whenever I get in one, it's always fun. It's like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? I've driven them for so long, and I don't fully think they're going away. I did read an article recently that Porsche is cutting back on their EVs. They realize they're not selling, and there's a huge they've cut back big time on what they said, and they're going back to their roots, and they're going to be producing manual transmission cars again.
that's awesome.
So they kind of are listening to what the consumers want versus what they think. Like a 0
Could
to
you
60
imagine?
time is going to be faster with an automatic, but your fun factor is better with a manual. So the average consumer isn't getting a stopwatch out at every traffic light and measuring their 0 to 60, but when they're on a back road and they get to pull that clutch in and down gear to second and whale it around that turn at 7,200 RPM and then up shift into third, at exit the corner at speeds that you shouldn't be going in America. That's what they want. Uh, because if you put it in automatic, you don't know what gear it was in. You don't know,
Right.
you don't really feel it. You feel it downshift because they're so smart that it knows you're feeling that downshift, but it's way different to feel connected. And there's 100% people that are pushing more for connecting to their car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Electric steering, you got drive-by-wire for throttle, you got drive-by-wire for steering, you got electric steering. There's so many things that technology has, but some of the sports car brands aren't are going back to some of the more basics.
Yeah, and I mean, so in the shop sense, I mean, that's got to make it even more complicated as a shop owner, as somebody that's constantly diagnosing problems in
Oh
cars.
yeah, check my
It's
power
no
steering
longer,
fluid.
yeah,
uh, it's electric,
yeah,
or you know what I mean?
exactly. It's like which one of these 17 modules is the culprit?
Yeah, I mean, well, because we get it happened 2 times event and
Yeah,
there's no faults in the system. And then what do you, you know what I mean? I could say, look, I can charge you diag time for hours, or we can clean some connectors, we can put some dielectric grease, we can do this, we can do that. Like, where do you want to go? Like, how concerned are you? Like, or, you can look for technical bulletins. You can do all of the things, but if a lot of these electrical things are glitchy, and it could have been a 2-time occurrence thing and it never happens again, or it could just be the beginning of a problem that's going to fail the second they pick the car up.
right.
It's one of those things. Yeah.
That's definitely that's definitely tough. And again, again. I feel like your forte was always electrical issues. You always were. Every time I talked to you for like a couple of months straight, it was like, "Well, I got another one of those problem cars. Pulled the
Yeah.
whole interior out."
Yes. So I do enjoy electrical work, but I like to be able to duplicate it. I do feel like recently with technology, with different things, customer will say something happened to them and it was concerning, and then there's no faults in the system, or the fault that does show up means like essentially everything in the system could be the problem. So you got to narrow things down. And if you can't duplicate it in the shop, it puts you behind the game. When you can duplicate it, I do like tracking it down. It is easy. It is rewarding. I just feel like the last year, nothing can get duplicated in the shop. So
Right.
and then you tell the customer, you said, okay, do you want to spend your time on diagnostics, or do you want to spend the time on the most logical, educated guess? And you
Right.
give them that option, because like I'm a reasonable person, and I have to say I could spend, you tell me how much money you want to spend for me to try and duplicate the problems with the scan tool hooked up, with reading the right measuring value block at the right time, doing the left turn on a Sunday at a full moon, you know, cresting a hill, like 3/4 throttle with the turn signal on. And if that happens, I can duplicate it. But, I've had some pretty quirky, weird concerns, but, ultimately it, the electronics in cars, it's a lot of software, it's a lot of what's it's a lot of just cleaning grounds, cleaning connectors, going over, resetting everything. And you know it's I don't typically replace a lot of parts, to be honest with you. And as far as I know, the cars don't come back. They don't come back to me. So yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well, so that's the hard part here, right? Is
yeah,
you talked about at like weighing the pros and cons of this, right? Is how much do we want to put into this to make it right? How much do I want to keep this car, or is this
yeah,
car something that I'm going to get rid of soon? Do you think that adding all of this technology to a car is making the cars more disposable? I'll use airbags as an example,
yeah,
right? We went from having 2 airbags to having 27 airbags. Sometimes you'll be in an accident and the car's perfectly fine, but because all the airbags went off, you're getting rid of it, right? It's a total write-off.
yeah. I mean, from my point of view, as a auto repair shop owner, the number one thing I hear from customers are they do not want to get a new car because it's their understanding that new cars are nothing but problems. I hear that over and over and over again. And they don't care about the technology. They just want a reliable A to B car. They're not car people. They want a reliable car. So their car might cost them, let's just say it costs them $1,500 a year between maintenance and the car's paid off. They're okay with that. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the thing too, right? If you're going to have a payment, this is kind of something that I weigh sometimes, right? If my
yeah.
payment, if I'm going to have a payment of, let's just say $300 a month for a car, right? Is that something I'd rather put
Well,
into a used vehicle, which I know the history of?
yeah.
right? To keep it running properly, or is that something that I want to put into a brand new car? Now, $300 a month might be a little bit high. I like your number of $1,500 for the year, right? To keep a car running.
Well,
But
$300 a month doesn't get you shit as far as a new car. I mean, if you're talking like the average car payment, I think is like pushing $600 or $700 a
and
month
then
right
yeah,
now. And
and
that's
that
the,
kind of goes right.
yeah,
And but it's a lot because of all this extra technology, all these extra
yeah,
modules and all that are making everything more and more expensive. And like we
yeah,
mentioned, like you're seeing these 360 cameras and the blind spot detections on
yeah.
some of the cheapest models. Some of the cheapest cars are still 30 to $40,000. When that was, I mean, probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 30,000 was an expensive car. Now it's a cheap car.
Yeah, I think the average new car transaction is over $40,000.
That's insane.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't blame people for wanting to hold on to their older cars.
right, right.
Even without the
Yeah. In the 50s, you could afford to buy a car that was like equivalent to like 3 or 4 months salary. You could buy
right,
a car. Now people are buying cars that are more than their annual salary.
right.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. Was there? We were trying to talk about new technology. We got a little bit backtracked into some of the older technology. I think for some people it kind of blends together, especially for me. I'm not as much into the what's going on with all the newest cars and all the newest trends. Are there any other newer technologies that you're seeing that we didn't touch on?
So in like 2012, 2013, there was like night vision. Cadillac did it, Mercedes did it, BMW, Audi, Range Rover, they all did it. It's still options on like S-Class Mercedes. I don't see too many through the shop that have it, but Audis, you've seen a handful of Audis that maybe had it. But yeah, that technology I thought was actually really cool, and I thought it would take off, but it didn't.
Yeah, I think it was Cadillac. It was like a little screen that kind of like projected up
Yeah,
onto your window, and it,
yeah,
it kind of
yeah,
showed you what was going on further down the road, which is really cool, especially if you live in like a deer-ridden area
yeah,
where
yeah.
there's constantly deers on the road or whatever else, right?
Right.
Or
Yeah.
just dark area.
Yeah. I be honest, I haven't messed with the Tesla in a minute, but I feel like Tesla probably has the technology with the way their systems work, but maybe they're just not showing it to you as the consumer, only because of how sophisticated everything they have,
Right.
to monitor the roads. But as far as the technology that I think is the most impressive, I mean, no, realistically, the biggest thing to hit the market mainstream is the 360 camera. Everything else has been around for a while. Everything
Right.
else has been around for 10, 15 years. But the mainstream of the 360 camera is the most impressive because you can get in a base model, a $40,000 base model car, and it has the 360 cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, is that the base model that has the one touch ups and one touch down window regulators?
Well, here's the thing that I don't even know. Some of these cars, it's so confusing to me because the technology they have for the windows sucks. Cars used to come with like remote starts. They don't have remote starts anymore.
Um,
Like some of the technology has reverted. I don't 100% get it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't super new, but I'm a fan of the start to stop technology. And it's just, I mean, it's turning the motor off when you're at a stoplight, but
Yeah.
it's not super spectacular. I just remember having a conversation with Dad ages ago, wondering why we didn't turn the car off at the stoplight. Like you're sitting there stopping for a minute or two and
Yeah.
waiting for traffic. And, if we're concerned about gas mileage, why not turning it off? And at the time, it was closer to carburetors. The fuel injection systems weren't that spectacular at the time. And the answer really was it takes more gas to start the car back up.
Yeah, well, I do think start-stop technology works more so with hybrids, in my opinion, because the hybrid systems are already built into, depending on the platform, either the transmission or whatever, so the systems are more robust. I think you'd have a hard time proving number-wise that you're in New York City, where I live, you would have a hard time proving that in the 6 stops it takes me to get to work, I would save any gas, especially if the air's on or the heat's on or different circumstances. So I guess where you live, it takes a big toll on
Right.
how effective that is. Excuse me. Start stop technology, I think that's actually going to go away. But because you said that, it made me think of something. I just have known this for about a month or so, but I'm hearing more and more information that they're actually going to be changing a lot of the diesel fuel regulations. They're talking about getting rid of the ultra low sulfur diesel and going to regular diesel, and that's going to change a lot of the emissions. So you mentioned saving fuel and different emissions things and the purpose of doing the stop start technology. Well, it'll be interesting to see if they went back to the old fuel, how much that changes the emissions and fuel quality, or not fuel quality, fuel mileage and all that stuff. So that maybe that would be something to touch on once we know more information about
Yeah.
that.
So now diesel is something like 40 cetane, right? Cetane, it's not octane,
Right.
it's a cetane.
Yep.
What the diesel that you're talking about, what's the cetane rating of that?
So in 2012 they made it mandated in America that we went from diesel to ultra low sulfur diesel. I'm not an engineer. All I know is the ultra low sulfur diesel is not doesn't have the lubricity that so a lot of people say put additives in, put like oil in, put ATF in it, put like
Hmm.
different stuff in your fuel because your engine's going to wear out, your fuel pump's going to wear out faster, different components are going to wear out faster and all that stuff. Well, there's actually been some studies done now, and we're way off topic, but the studies done are saying that if we went to the old fuel prior to 2012, um, the emissions would actually be better on these cars. And Ford, GM, Dodge, and Ram now have been, according to my sources, all testing full-size pickup trucks with no diesel emissions on them on public roads from factory, testing them because there's rumors that the fuel is going to be changed back to the regular stuff. And with the regular stuff, they don't have to have any emissions. So it's
I'm not a
almost like
DFT or
the EPA has changed the rules of certain things with DEF fluid. That went into
that's
effect,
it.
and
Yeah.
Ford already started doing tunes on factory vehicles for that. I think GM's to follow. No rumors on anything from Ram, but everybody's going to be changing everything soon, so that'll be interesting.
Well, you talk about the DEF fluid, the DEF fluid. The drivers that I have at work, all of them they're all diesel trucks, and I can't tell you how many times they get stuck in like a limp mode
Yeah,
because they either run out of the DEF fluid or the DEF fluid gets low enough that it puts it into some sort of limp, and then it gets recycled, and like it
so
doesn't reset properly,
yeah, so they
and then
did
they can't
just
drive the
change
truck.
all that. So all of those laws have now been changed. So a lot of the manufacturers, Ford is the first one to come up with a tune. I guess they had someone on the inside and they knew the information, and they've already announced starting like I think yesterday, today's Monday. So starting today, they started doing tunes on customers' cars to get rid of all that def limp mode
Interesting.
stuff. So it used to be like,
Dieselgate only knew.
yeah, it used to be like you could only drive like 50 miles, 100 miles, 200 miles,
Hmm.
and then you'd be in limp mode. Now, it's my understanding it's like 3 or 4,000 miles before it puts you
Oh
in limp
well,
mode. So it gives you 3 or 4,000 miles to get your DEF system figured out.
that's
But
good.
the rumors are that DEF is just going to go away completely. So that's technology that was created for emissions purposes, only to find out that if you went back to the regular diesel, apparently we're going to burn cleaner. So
And yeah,
that'll be interesting.
I mean, sometimes like sometimes you have to, like you have to test it to
Yeah,
see,
yeah. I mean, look,
right? Like
yeah, I mean, and obviously they convinced a lot of big corporations and people with a lot of pull that this ultra low sulfur was the answer, but it turns out that that was actually the problem.
technology in cars is definitely. I feel like it's almost pushing cars. It's making them less and less affordable. It's making them, more and more disposable because, one, like you said, when you got one electrical problem that you can't easily replicate, it makes it harder and harder to keep the car or
Yeah,
whatever else. The biggest thing that I mean, I see it every day is like airbags have gotten larger and larger. The A pillar is like the biggest blind spot in a car, right? I mean,
Yeah.
prior to putting airbags in the A pillar, they A pillars were so tiny. They had a Subaru that had a glass A pillar,
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah.
here we are. They're just gargantuan. I think the Panamera, I don't really like driving because of how the A pillar sits like right in your view. Um, and it's just tough. All right, so I'm gonna round this up. I'm gonna ask you some slightly different questions,
All right, do it.
but it's gonna kind of stay on topic. So, we've talked a lot about some various different forms of racing. So my question to you is, if we ever do build a Lemons car, what are we doing with the technology in the car? How much of the technology are we stripping out and going to non?
I would not go carbureted. That's too finicky. I would not go standalone engine management. I would go factory tuning and I would go naturally aspirated. I wouldn't if I were building uh an endurance car, I would stay away from the turbo and I would stay away from carburetor. I would go naturally aspirated. I would probably keep ABS only because that's tried and true. I would definitely have hydraulics, power steering. I wouldn't go electric power steering. It's not a good feel. So I would pick a
Well, so there's
platform
two
of a
different
vehicle.
things. There's electric power steering, and then there's drive, and then there's steering by wire, right? And there's two different
Right.
things.
Yeah.
So which one are you talking about? Because
Um, so I would have mechanical hydraulic steering. That style, that would be the style of steering. So it would be a platform that has that. So pretty much any car from like pre 2010, unless you're talking exotic sports cars.
right, because the
So
same Subaru I was talking about had electronic steering, right? It was an electric
it
pump.
had an electronic power steering pump,
Yeah,
but it was still considered hydraulic
right.
steering. Yeah, yeah.
It just takes the load off of the motor.
It took yeah, yeah. So realistically, you want a hydraulic steering, preferably done by the belt, so that way it's one less thing to worry about. It's just only because it's tried and true. And if you're doing endurance, if you have an electronic pump fail, that can happen. Having a hydraulic pump fail that's driven by a belt, they don't typically fail. Typically they leak. Typically, they start making noises. Typically things like that.
Right.
They don't just fail. So you probably make it through the rest of the race. So I would build what would I build? Like a Mark V Volkswagen.
Yeah, and because then
You
you've
get them
got
cheap.
the drive-by cable, right? You don't have instead of the drive-by. Well, Mark Fives are drive-by wire, right?
So drive-by wire that's fine. I'm fine with that. That technology has very few glitches, but the steering would still be hydraulic.
Right.
Um, the ABS system's complex, but also well well documented to being reliable. I would go naturally aspirated. I wouldn't go with 2.0 turbo. I would probably go, the 5 cylinder or even the 4 cylinder non-turbo. And that would be what I would go with, only because I like Volkswagens more than some of the other brands. And the other brands are great. They would do perfectly fine. I just know Volkswagen's better.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think you and we've built a couple of race cars or cars ourselves when we're together. And I'm kinda I really wanna build something these days soon myself, but then I always think about the build, and it's like, "Well, do I get rid of all the extra crap that's in the car?"
Yeah, I mean, you like if you're building an endurance car, you got to keep the heat in the air,
Yeah,
just in case. So
right,
it's like, you might as well have air conditioning because you're going to be in there for a long time.
right.
So wouldn't you want air conditioning? Like I wouldn't pull the air conditioning out.
But I mean, even like you're talking about is, instead of going standalone, just keeping the factory management.
Yeah.
We were looking at that one four-cylinder not too long ago. I'm like, "Oh, we could put a big lumpy cam in it. We could do all this," and,
Yeah.
I was like
No.
I was like, "What tune would we put on it?" And I'm like, "I don't know. That sounds like it's just getting complicated."
Yeah. No. I mean, a long-term endurance race, you want it as stock and just
Yeah, I think you
run it
put
that way.
wheels and tires
But
on it, right?
yeah, good brand brake pads and fresh wheel bearings so it can handle all that, you know, endurance racing and you're good to go. Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so are we gonna do it? Are we gonna
Yeah, let's make it happen.
we're gonna
Let's
do
build
the
a car.
so what I thought would be fun if we do this, we should have like a lemons section where we do give everybody a little update on where
Yeah,
we are with the lemons. So this is the start of the lemons section, and
there you go.
the update is you
So
guys are,
find the perfect car.
yeah, we're on the hunt for a five. Are we gonna do the 500? We're doing lemons or we're doing champ?
I think we can do both, but Champ seems more appealing. But people have told me Lemons, there's not as many cars. Someone that does both has told me Champ, there can be a lot of cars. Lemons, there's less cars. So if we can build a car that we could do both in, we could have fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely like the idea of doing both. More opportunities to go fast sounds good to me. I just know that lemons, part of the ruling is it's a $500 or less car that we're kind of
Yeah.
stuck with. So
So
if
it's
you
it's
happen to have a Volkswagen that you want to
that you
sell
want to sell for $500.
$500,
And we'll yeah. The whole interior can be
yeah,
yours. You
yeah,
can keep whatever you want out of it as long as we have this running car
yeah.
for $500.
We
We're
don't even
good.
need the driver's seat.
Yeah, we don't even need this seat. We don't even need a driver. We don't need any of the interior. We
Yeah,
don't even need the steering wheel. We don't need any airbags. We don't need anything. We don't need any of the glass.
yep. Your glass can all be yours. Actually, that's one thing I did want to ask about it. I've seen some cars that have the glass and some that don't. It seems more so in lemons they remove the glass, and then it seems like if I look up Champ or Cup cars, they have the glass. Do you
It's
know?
my understanding you can have the windshield and that's it. The rest has to be Lexan.
Gotcha. Makes
Right.
sense. A friend of mine did. This is a off topic, on topic thing. A friend of mine did demolition derby, so that's also on my list of racing.
Yeah.
Is
Demolition Derby, you definitely cannot have any glass.
Yeah, no, removing all of the glass for that. Yeah,
All glasses are removed for that.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, apparently you don't even need a roll bar or roll cage.
Wait, really? I don't know if I would want to enter in that. That sounds scary.
Well, I think you could put one in. I just don't think that you have to have one. But I think I want to protect myself as a
I
driver.
don't want to get rear-ended by someone in the driver's door without having a roll cage.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that. I was like, man, I was like, there must be rules about no smashing the driver's door or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think you're always looking. Sometimes you're just putting in reverse and going. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that would be fun as hell. So hopefully we can do a couple of car builds on this channel.
All
Um,
right.
up
Perfect.
first, up first is vehicles and videos. Lemons run.
All right.
All right. All right. Cool. Oh, thank you guys for dropping in. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bryn, point at all the corners.
It's going to be there
Yeah.
and down there. Go right there. Go right there. Nope. It's right there.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.